All right, everybody, get ready, because today we are diving deep into J.D. Roth's Your Money, the Missing Manual.
Yeah, this one's a classic.
It really is, and it's packed with so much good stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, this book is like a breath of fresh air
it is.
when it comes to personal finance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Roth just has this way of breaking things down into these really clear, actionable steps
He does.
that anyone can use, no matter like where you are in your financial journey.
Yeah, you don't have to be like a Wall Street wizard to understand this stuff.
Exactly.
It's for everyone.
And he starts right at the ground level,
Yeah.
like understanding where your money is actually going,
Yeah.
which, sounds simple enough.
Right.
But, and we've all heard it before, like track your spending, know where your money's going.
Right. You think you know.
But there's a difference between like intellectually knowing you should track your spending
Totally.
and actually seeing those numbers,
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah.
Like that latte factor staring you in the
It's
face.
eye-opening, right?
I'm telling you, it could be a real wake-up call.
It is. It brings so much awareness to your spending habits.
For sure.
Roth calls it conscious spending.
I love that.
And it's not about like depriving yourself. You can still enjoy that latte. It's just about asking yourself, does this actually align with, what I want my money to be doing for me?
Totally. Like, does this actually align with my goals, with my values?
Exactly.
It's about making intentional choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how this ties into his whole concept of a spending plan, which I much prefer to the word budget, because budget just feels so restrictive.
Restrictive, yeah.
This is more like, okay, this is a plan.
This is the plan.
This is the roadmap.
Exactly.
And, we're going to make conscious choices that are going to support this plan.
It's about having a vision for your money.
Yes.
And then making decisions that support that vision.
Okay. So speaking of plans, let's talk about tackling debt.
Let's do it.
Because Roth has this really interesting approach called the debt snowball method.
This is a good one.
Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah. The debt snowball method is all about building momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of focusing on like the interest rates or the technical stuff,
Right.
you start by tackling your smallest debt first,
Okay.
regardless of the interest rate. So you throw everything you've got at that smallest debt. And once it's gone, you roll that payment amount into the next smallest debt. And so on and so forth.
So you're like literally gaining momentum as you go.
Exactly. Like a snowball rolling downhill. It's a really powerful psychological trick.
It's so smart because you get that quick win right off the
Yes.
bat, which I think when you're tackling debt,
Huge.
motivation is everything.
It's huge because debt can be so emotionally draining.
Totally.
It can feel like this weight on your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to get that small win early on
Yes.
can make a world of difference.
Okay, so let's say, for example, I've got like a $500 debt and then I've got like a $1,000 debt.
Okay.
So I'm going to focus all my energy on knocking out that $500 first.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then once that's gone, you've got an extra, let's say $50 a month freed up.
Yeah.
You add that to your existing payment on that $1,000 debt.
Right.
And it's gone before you know it.
So much faster.
So much faster.
Okay, that is brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've tackled the debt. We're feeling good.
Feeling good.
We're building momentum.
Yeah.
But then life happens,
Always.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Life is full of these unexpected curveballs.
It is. It is. And that's where the emergency fund comes in.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
So an emergency fund is all about creating that financial safety net
Okay.
so that when those unexpected expenses pop up, whether it's, your car decides to give up the ghost
Which it will.
or an unexpected medical bill,
Yeah.
you're not panicking. You're not reaching for a credit card
Right.
and adding to that debt that you've worked so hard to pay off.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of cars, this actually reminds me of this one time.
Yeah.
My car, I was driving in rush hour traffic and my car just completely died.
Oh,
Like, in the middle of rush hour.
Wow.
And I had to have it towed, and it turned out to be like this super expensive fix.
The worst.
It was the worst.
Yeah.
But you know what? Because I had my emergency fund,
Yes,
I didn't have to panic.
that's the
I
key.
didn't have to go into debt.
Yeah.
I was able to just like handle it
Yeah.
and move on with my life.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's for.
And that experience right there just like solidified for me.
Right.
Like how important it is to have that cushion,
Absolutely.
that financial peace of mind.
It ties into Roth's whole philosophy of creating that solid financial foundation.
Right.
So that you can weather those financial storms without derailing all of your progress.
Yes.
It's so important. It's huge. It's like having that emergency fund is like, it's like having that financial security blanket.
Totally.
It just takes the stress out.
For sure. For sure. And it allows you to approach other financial goals from like from a place of stability.
Right. Like you're not constantly putting out fires.
Exactly.
You can actually start building towards something.
Which brings us to investing.
Okay. Yes.
Which Roth does a great job of, demystifying.
He does.
Making it feel accessible, I think, for everybody.
Yes, he really does.
Not just, people on Wall Street.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something that anybody can do.
And one of the things I love about his approach is this whole concept of index funds.
Yes.
Which, okay, can you just break that down for us? Because I think a lot of people hear index funds and they're like, what is that? No. Right, so it's basically like, instead of trying to pick individual stocks,
right,
you're investing in this basket of stocks that represents the entire market.
So it's like a diversified approach.
Exactly. It's a diversification strategy.
Okay.
And it's a long-term strategy.
Got it.
Where you're not trying to time the market.
Yeah.
You're not trying to pick winners and losers.
Right.
You're basically saying, I think the market as a whole is going to go up over time.
In the long run.
In the long run.
Yeah.
And so you're just buying a little piece of everything.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So like the S&P 500, for example.
Right.
Like you could buy an index fund that tracks the S&P 500.
So you're like owning a tiny little piece of all of those companies.
Exactly.
And as those companies grow, so does your investment.
That's the idea. Okay, that is so cool. And that's where compound interest comes into play, right?
Yes. Compound interest is the magic.
Tell me more.
Okay, so let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Let's say you invest, I don't know, $1,000 today.
Okay.
And you earn an average annual return of, say, 7%.
Okay.
So after 1 year, you'd have $1,070.
Okay.
Right? 7%.
Makes sense.
But here's where it gets really cool.
Yeah.
In year 2,
yeah,
you're earning 7% not just on your initial $1,000, but on that $1,070.
Oh, I see. So it's like your money is
Wriggling upon itself.
Interest on top of interest.
Exactly. It's like that snowball effect, but for your investments.
Exactly. It's like a snowball effect on your money.
I love that.
And that's why, over time,
yeah,
even small contributions can grow really, really significantly.
Because of that compound interest.
Because of that compound interest. Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if you can only invest a small amount right now,
right,
starting early is the key.
Got it.
Because that's going to give you more time for that money to compound.
It's so easy to get overwhelmed by investing.
It really is.
It can feel so intimidating.
It feels like this big, scary thing.
Yeah, and I love how Roth just, he breaks it down into these manageable steps.
He does. He makes it so approachable.
Okay, so we've talked about index funds. We've talked about compound interest.
Right.
But there's this whole other layer to this.
Yes.
Which is this concept of behavioral finance.
Yes.
Which I have to admit was a little bit of a new one for me when I first came across it.
Yeah, it's not something that's talked about a ton.
But it makes so much sense.
It does.
Because it's like we like to think of ourselves as these rational human beings.
Right. We like to think we're making decisions based on logic.
Yes. But when it comes to money, our emotions play a huge role.
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do. And that's what behavioral finance looks at.
Yes.
It's how our emotions and psychology influence those financial decisions.
Forward.
Sometimes even more so than the actual numbers.
It's like that impulse buy,
Oh, yeah.
You're like, oh, this seemed like a good idea at the time.
In the moment.
Yeah. And then you get home and you're like, why did I buy this?
What was I thinking?
What was I thinking?
Exactly. And so behavioral finance helps us understand those triggers and how to make more conscious choices.
Okay, so how can we actually do that?
Yeah.
How can we become more aware of those emotional triggers when it comes to our money?
So one thing that Roth talks about is aligning your spending with your values.
Right, yes.
Which we've touched on a little bit.
Yes.
But it's so important because when you're clear about what truly matters to you, it becomes so much easier to make conscious decisions about your money.
Totally. Instead of just saying no to everything.
Exactly.
They're okay, does this actually align with what's important to me?
Yeah, let's say you really value experiences.
Okay.
Over material possessions.
Okay.
You might choose to spend less on
clothes and gadgets and all that.
Yeah, and more on travel or trying new things.
Right, because that's what's important to you. And that aligns with your values.
So it's not about deprivation, it's about being intentional.
Yes, love that. It's about making sure your money is supporting the life you want to live, not the other way around.
Exactly, and that's what I appreciate about Roth's approach. He doesn't dictate a one-size-fits-all solution. He empowers you to create a financial plan that aligns with your individual values and goals.
He provides the tools and knowledge, but it's up to you to use them in a way that makes sense for your unique situation. It's really empowering.
It is, and he stresses that financial literacy is a journey, not a destination. There's always more to learn and room for growth.
Which is why he encourages readers to keep learning, keep asking questions, and don't be afraid to seek guidance when you need it.
Absolutely. Whether it's from a financial advisor, a trusted friend, or even just digging deeper into the resources Roth recommends, asking for help is a sign of financial maturity.
And you know what else is a sign of financial maturity?
What's that?
Taking that first step. It's
Yeah.
so easy to feel overwhelmed by personal finance, but Roth breaks it down into these manageable financial baby steps.
Mm,
You don't have to do everything at once. Just pick one thing, focus on it, make it a habit, and then move on to the next step.
It's about building momentum slowly but surely.
Exactly. And I love that because it makes the whole journey feel less daunting. You know what else I love about Roth's approach?
What's that?
He emphasizes that it's not about being perfect. It's about progress, not perfection. There will be setbacks and bumps in the road. We might overspend or make a decision we regret, but the important thing is to learn from those experiences and keep moving forward.
He encourages us to view those setbacks as learning opportunities, not failures.
Which brings me back to something we touched on earlier, aligning your spending with your values. I feel like that's such a powerful concept.
It is. When you're clear about what truly matters to you, it becomes easier to make conscious decisions about your money.
It's like Roth says in the book, don't ask yourself, can I afford this? But rather, does this purchase add value to my life?
And sometimes the answer might be yes. If you value travel, for example, and you've budgeted for a trip to Italy, that's not frivolous spending. That's investing in an experience that aligns with your values.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed by your finances, I highly recommend checking out Your Money, The Missing Manual by J.D. Roth.
It's a game changer, full of practical advice and actionable steps that can help you take control of your money and start building a life of true wealth.
And remember, true wealth isn't just about how much money you have in the bank. It's about having the freedom and flexibility to live a life that's meaningful to you. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something I want you to ponder. What if you actively designed your life, your career, your relationships, everything around your values? How might that shift your perspective, not just on money, but on everything? It's something to think about.
It really makes you realize that financial well-being is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to living a fulfilling and intentional life.
I couldn't have said it better myself. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Until next time, happy reading, and remember, you've got this.